This is the Community Health Improvement Network, and we are thankful that you are here. Would you give yourselves a round of applause for just having your health as a priority? That's what this represents to us. It represents that you are concerned about your health, and in today's case, your mental health. Well, we are thankful, like I said, that you are here. I want to introduce and welcome each one of you who are here. I want you to know that this is truly something that we have been trying to make sure happen, and that is have people to come to RSVP and then actually come out, and you've done that, and I appreciate that. We have today and discussing today mental health resources. This is our lunch and learn for that, and we are thankful for you being here. I want you to know, though, that we are not here and do this work alone. We have partners, and we are so thankful for our partners. As a matter of fact, our partner, Weems Mental Health Community Center, is also a member partner of ours, and so we're thankful for them. We also have Baptist Anderson Health Center. We have Alliance Health Center, City of Meridian, East Central Health Net, East Mississippi Business Development Corporation, Greater Meridian Health Clinic, Meridian Community College, Meridian Housing Authority, Mississippi State Department of Health, Mississippi State University Meridian, Ashna Rush Health, the Free Clinic of Meridian, Phil Hardin Foundation, and Weems Community Mental Health. We are so thankful for our partners. Would you give them a round of applause? Today, our guest is Ms. Winter D. Ward. We are so happy to have her. She is a licensed professional counselor, born and reared right here in Meridian. Let's applaud that. We want to keep our own. She's the daughter of Evelyn Ward. She's in her 21st year of master's level mental health experience work with children and adults, and currently working in crisis services since 2014. She have experience with juvenile sex offenders and behavioral residential experience with youth between the ages of 12 and 17. And we want to make sure that she have enough time to do her presentation, and so we're going to go ahead and let her get started on her presentation right now. We are thankful to also have with her Rush Andrakio, who is the director of Weems, and then we have Olivia Blount, as well as Mr. Ski. They are all the team, and will be ready to answer whatever questions you might have after the presentation. Let's give Ms. Ward a round of applause.
She said I can use this right here.
You can, but you also need this.
Hello. Hello. I tell you what, this is a pleasure to stand before you all today and speak about something that is very near and dear to my heart. I like to say, when people get to know me and I introduce myself and I say the field that I'm in, I often say, I get to serve. I believe that God has me planted in this place for a reason. And so when I interact with my clients, I feel as if I bring a value to the space. And so during this presentation, I'm going to talk about a few things pertaining to what it is that we do at Weems. Now, Weems has been a staple in this community for many years. Everybody's heard of Weems. If you've heard of Weems, raise your right hand for it. Everybody's heard of Weems. We are located in 9 counties. We have been a part of this community for many years. But just as time changes, just as seasons change, so does services. So in this particular presentation, I'm going to talk about some things that I'm sure each and every one of you can take back and utilize with your families, in your neighborhoods, or even with some of your friends. Again, I am Winter Ward, and I'm the current Director of Crisis for Region 10, which is Weems Community Mental Health. My objectives for today is to give you an overview of what social stigma is for those that may have a mental health condition or a diagnosis. I also want to talk briefly about our crisis services, in particular, our team of mobile crisis response team members, which are master's level clinicians and bachelor level case managers. And also, I want to speak about our collaboration with our local CIT team. But I want to start this presentation off with a phrase or a quote. It states, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no universal recipe for living." You see, every person in this room comes with their own experiences. Everything that you've been through shaped who you are sitting here today. And so it's imperative that as we come together as a community, we make concessions for that. We all have had a journey, and everyone has a story. But I'm going to talk about something that often breaks my heart, and it's stigma. Stigma involves seeing someone as an other based off of what one knows about that person's mental health condition. It involves judgments and shame towards mental health struggles and the act of seeking help. Sometimes we place blame on ourselves. So I'm going to give you some examples of what stigma sounds like. Stigma sounds like in conversations when someone says, "Can't you choose to be happy? Are you doing this for attention?" Other people have it a lot worse. Therapy and medications are just scams. Oh, here's a good one for you grandparents in the room. "That kid needs something on his behind. In my day, that worked." What about "It's all in your head"? Or "You've got to get over it." A few myths about people that have diagnosis of mental illness or a mental health condition. Stereotype is that they're lazy. They're seeking attention. All they need is medicines. Crazy, mental, throw to the left, slow. Have you all heard those phrases to describe someone that may have a mental health diagnosis? Okay. What about violent? How many people assume that people that suffer from a mental health diagnosis are violent? Statistics show that they're actually not as violent as other populations of people. What about unhygienic? There are some people who just not gonna bathe themselves. That doesn't mean that it's associated with mental illness. And incompetent. Again, these are myths. But I'm gonna tell you what mental health is not. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not shameful. It is not all in one's mind. It's not always something negative. It ain't always gonna feel good all the time. It's not fake and it's not rare. In fact, if you've ever had an issue or a stressor in your life, you may have at that time had a mental health condition. So let me make sure I want to specify something for you guys. Having a diagnosis is an official tagline or an official diagnosis that you're able to get because you meet a certain set of criteria. You have to have certain symptoms, okay? It is usually provided by a clinician or a doctor. A condition is similar to crisis. Just as a question probing the room, if you got out there to that parking lot and you are on all flats, would that be a crisis to you? Raise your hand if that would be a crisis to you. If one of your children or grandchildren had a bad day at school, which resulted in them receiving a consequence, which meant like maybe an expulsion or suspension, would that be a crisis for your family? What about job loss? Think about the social climate that we're in today. Things are ever changing. Okay? And we're not even going to talk about those of us that are on social media. Raise your hand if you're on social media. Even if you have a trap account, some of y'all not wanting to own up for that. Raise your hand again if you are on social media. Okay. What do we often see on social media now? We see RIP. We see praying for you. Loss after loss. That's what we've experienced in our community, in our small community. Lieutenant Ski, you actually said something in our training last week, and it was extremely important. I want to share it with them. You said we are in a small city with big city problems. That's what you said, right? Did I say it right? Okay. But here are some ways to reduce stigma. And this here is a good effort. Having conversations, difficult conversations about something that is factual, and it is in our community. Ways to reduce stigma: show compassion, encourage equality, talk openly about mental health, educate yourself about mental health, educate yourself on what it actually is. Choose empowerment over shame. And here is a big one. Have the courage to address the needs in your own family. The problem with stigma around mental health is really about the stories that we will tell ourselves in society. Everybody in this room is sharing that space. After you go to your vehicles and go off into the world, into your lives, we have now had this experience in this room together. I would like to think that every person that is lending their ear to me right now, I think that some of this can resonate with you. If it is not you, if it is not your family, certainly there has been an experience, a time or two in your life where someone you loved had a mental health issue, crisis, or diagnosis. Us versus them mentality. Oftentimes, we like to say those people. We're not like those people. We forget that it's actually a we. Mental health is a community's responsibility. I'm going to talk about some things that our community, most communities have experienced. And I'm sure everybody in this room is going to resonate with this. COVID fatigue. How many of us are tired of talking about it, but it's here? How many of us can own the fact that we are no longer the same since experiencing that? And we're 5 years past when we initially got education to experiencing it, right? Issues of loss and bereavement. I just spoke to that. Some of us have lost so many people that there essentially are no more tears to fall. You think about how quickly we hear of someone's passing, and yes, we do grieve those individuals, but it's a different kind of grief now. A lot of us are just passing through life and we realize at any moment there could be another loss. Social media involvement and scrutiny. That has an effect on a lot of individuals. Social media has the power to destroy you, to keep you divisive in your communities. Political climate. I ain't even gonna go there. Increasing aging population. A lot of us are in positions now where we are learning how. Well, let me say this. I can only describe it like this. You people called parents are very difficult. When you get to a certain age, y'all feel like that because you're the parent, those adult children don't have a say-so. But when life changes you, sometimes those adult children have to come and now the roles are changing. I think the statement, the old phrase my grandmother used to tell me was, once an adult, twice a baby. Has anybody heard of that before? Okay. Think about this here. Lack of adequate job options. Increasing drug use, sales, and offenses. I'm sure you can speak to that. Domestic violence, abuse in all the populations, and unaddressed personal trauma. A community in crisis. Mental health crisis can affect everyone. From divorce to high-functioning anxiety, each person holds a tolerance level designed specifically for them. And it is important to note that everyone deals with crisis situations differently. A mental health crisis is different from a mental health diagnosis. Okay? From ADHD, anxiety, difficulty adjusting to a move, loss of a relationship, and lack of education about true mental health conditions versus poor behavioral choices, many of us can find ourselves in a compromised situation. In most cases, these situations arise from the very people that we love. I'm going to skip that one because I've already discussed that. So what I want to do is I want to segue into what WINGS actually does. Again, we're in a constantly changing social climate, and WINGS has now fostered in a lot of new leadership. We've had to change how we provide services. I'm one of those old-time therapists. For years, nobody could convince me that telehealth was important. I believe in sitting across from my patients. I don't like looking at a screen to serve anyone. But in this day and time, I've had to get with it. That's a thing, and it's efficient for a lot of people. But I want to talk a little bit about our services at WINGS. Again, this is what we offer. Individual therapy, family therapy, PSR services. We also have a children and youth division. Also, we have A&D residential, and we also have IDD services. But this bottom program is what I want to focus on, and it is called MCERT. MCERT is a specialized group of therapists and case managers that respond to crisis intervention 24/7 every day of the year. But let me throw this on the end of it because I'm not going to misrepresent what we do. Only when the scene is safe. Okay? And with that program, that is when we collaborate with the CIT program, and I'll get to that in a minute. Let me talk a little bit more about MCERT. The Mobile Crisis Response Team provides community-based crisis services that deliver solution-focused and recovery-oriented behavioral health assessments and stabilization of crisis in the location where the individual is experiencing it. MCERT serves clients and non-clients. MCERT will target individuals experiencing a situation where the individual's behavior health needs exceeds that individual's resources to effectively handle the circumstance. Talked about that. I like to say this often to encourage my staff, because a lot of times when they go out to crisis calls, they sometimes come back and they say, I'm a little daunted. I couldn't secure what I thought I could for that person. But I often say this to them. I say, you are not a superhero. So when we market our programs, we like to say that we're available, and we definitely are. But a strong clinician knows where there's an end game. Oftentimes, traditional services are recommended. Most of our crisis call results in a person coming in and meeting with us and getting started for our traditional services. But there are some moments where we do have to assist with placement, which would be at a crisis stabilization unit, assistance with East Mississippi placement, as well as Alliance Health Center. Now, this right here is where I want y'all to pay real good attention to what I'm saying. Family disputes, physical violence, custody issues, and legal circumvention are areas that can be addressed through therapeutic settings and addressed on a case-by-case basis. What I mean by that, those individuals can be in a crisis, but just because a therapist comes out and talks to you at 2 o'clock in the morning, we ain't gonna necessarily resolve your custody issues. But we will make you feel as if you have the support that you need. There is always something to gain from it. As I spoke before, MCERT is a program of wings, but MCERT has a strong collaboration relationship with our local law enforcement officers. And it is through a very unique program called Crisis Intervention Team. And I want to talk a little bit about what that is. And then Lieutenant Ski, I would like for you to do a quick spill about that as well, if you don't mind. But CIT, has anybody heard of CIT in the room? Oh, wow. Okay. So just to sum it up, CIT officers are specially trained officers. They go through a 40-hour work week of training, and we train them on specific categories associated with mental health. It's better known as the Memphis model. That is where it originated. And since 2012, Lauderdale County, now here's a fact, Lauderdale County was actually the first county in Mississippi to establish a full CIT team. We literally just got out of a week-long training Friday. So it is active, it is still going. Let me talk to you about what we trained them in, though. They are trained in de-escalation. Now, the reason for that is, historically, people that suffered from mental health conditions were inappropriately jailed, inappropriately injured, weren't getting the treatment that they needed. And so this model helps us to pull down the resources and make sure we're focused in the right direction to help individuals, to make sure they're receiving the right service. So here are the topics that we do discuss in that week-long training. We talk about substance use disorders. Dr. Hogan goes into the specifics of how the genetics play into addiction. Personality disorders, mental health disorders, obviously, children and youth issues and emotional trauma, cultural competence, legal aspects, stories from the field. We talk about our CSU and Alliance placement. And in addition to that, we give them education into mental health medications, so that when they're out on the streets, they're very knowledgeable about what they're seeing. Okay, I've talked about that. Again, we have very close collaborations with CIT. In fact, Lieutenant Ski and I are constantly on the phone, aren't we? It doesn't matter the time of day. We are just trying to make sure we're showing up for the clients. So let me give you the true picture here. This is where the therapy gonna come in, y'all. Our community is hurting. There has been loss after loss, pain after pain, and unfortunately, blame after blame. As a community, we are shaken, and quite frankly, we're feeling a sense of hopelessness. Compassion and empathy are where we meet. And I'm going to segue to give Lieutenant Ski some time, but I want to end this with every person in this room has their own pathology, has their own history, has their own experience, have their own things that have happened to build their life. And so I'll leave you with this. May we heal from the things that no one has apologized for. With that, I will invite Lieutenant Ski up. And Lieutenant, will you speak to the room about the CIT program?
Good afternoon, everybody. Sheriff Calhoun, Sheriff Calhoun sends his greetings and apologies for him not being able to speak. Crisis intervention is largely of his doing in Lauderdale County. Retired Sheriff Solly, we call him Citizen Solly now, by the way. It was kind of his brainchild in the fact that we need a place and a way to give people with serious mental health issues the treatment that they need, and our jail is not that place. I don't know if y'all been down there for a visit. I work down there. That place will make somebody that is sane. Yes. Okay? So we started that process. We started looking for a way to get people to some help and not into our jail. So in looking at that, we stumbled across the CIT program, or the Memphis model, as you heard Ms. Ward mention. That thing was actually pioneered by a native Meridianite. His name's Sam Cochran. He's a retired major of the Memphis Police Department. Happened to be a two-door down neighbor of Sheriff Solly's when they were kids. And I asked the sheriff when he told us, hey, we should look into this. I'm like, oh, you know what I'm saying? And why am I just now finding out about it? So that collaboration started. We had some laws passed in 2010 that gave us the tools that we needed. Go through the 40-hour training, become certified in the process. Oh, by the way, there's no participation trophies in our training. That lady right there is strict. She makes sure we toe the line and that everybody that comes through that class and gets that certification is qualified to do what it is that we have to do. Now, what is it that we're doing? Those specially trained officers have the ability, without the signature of a magistrate, to compel someone into an evaluation for their mental health against their will, if necessary, if they meet one of several criteria. Are they a threat to themselves? Are they a threat to someone else? Or are they unable to care for themselves? Now look, let's not get it twisted. There's no law in the books anywhere that says you can't just be out in public if you've got some challenges. You can. It's a very simple analogy. Your rights extend right up until the point that they begin to tread upon the rights of someone else. So that's the balance that we try to keep all the time. Like when you meet somebody at a stop sign, you want to go right now. Well, so do they. And that's why we have rules, and that's how that works. So we do the same thing in treating people with significant mental illness. Just today, Ms. Ward was talking about us being on the phone together. A young lady showed up here in our jurisdiction. The target of her affections lives here, and unfortunately, it's a paranoid delusion that led her to show up on this man's front door. Imagine that now. Somebody had been sending you mail and causing problems for you and your family that you didn't invite, didn't ask for anything, and then all of a sudden, in the dark of night, they show up at your front door. Wouldn't that be terrifying? It was for this family. Years ago, that would have been a one-way ticket to the Sheriff's Cross Bar Hotel, okay? But we learned, and we've gotten better. This young lady had a mental illness. She needs help. And as we speak, she is at the Crisis Stabilization Unit over in Newton County that is an outsourced parcel of the Williams Community Mental Health Center. So that's what we're trying to do. But don't get it twisted around in your mind. It's not just us. We're a criminal enforcement agency. Our job is to investigate and present for prosecution violations of the law. We do crisis management because it keeps folks out of our jail and because it makes our people safer. There is still a huge responsibility on the public to be their own best advocates. And at the end of the day, we're all advocates. It's up to us to take care of our people and to make sure that they get the treatment that they need and that they have the access. Because just like most of you didn't know anything about what the Crisis Intervention Team program was, which is flourishing certainly here in East Central Mississippi, but across the state and across the nation. I've been very fortunate to travel and present on this topic around the country and now around the world. I sat on the board of directors for Crisis Intervention International for a while because it's important work and we wanted to make sure it was working in other places than just here. We all have the responsibility. So when it's somebody that you're connected with, and that could be anybody now, it's not just your family, any person who is interested in a case can come to the court and request that a person be evaluated. And that leads to Ms. Ward's staff. They do the initial screenings to make sure that we get that person to the appropriate level of care. Because and don't think for a moment that that means we're gonna take somebody and throw them in East Mississippi or throw them in Whitfield. That's not the case. We're gonna get them to the appropriate level of care based off of what their situation is at the time. I wanna do one quick little exercise with you. There are no wrong answers and there's nothing that is off the table. If you've heard something used in slang on media, maybe in a movie or newspaper, whatever, to reference someone with mental illness? What would that word be? Just sing them out. Nobody's gonna care. I'll start. Crazy. Nuts. Come on. Cuckoo. Come on. Give me some more. Lunatic. Anybody? That actually is based in some science from way back in the day. Anything else?
Bonkers.
Bonkers. That's a good one.
What about hand gestures doing this?
Yeah, like this. Okay, you get all that? Look, you can go back to the Sam Jackson movie where they were over in Canton and they called him a slow coach. That's some old school knowledge there. Anybody know anybody that's ever had cancer? Show of hands. How many people have somebody that they know were directly involved with that was touched by cancer? What about diabetes? All right, what about heart disease? Somebody tell me what a slang term is for cancer. How about a heart attack? You got a slang term for that? That's stigma, people. That's what it looks like. And you know why it's like that? Because we don't understand it. The depths of the human mind are one of the last frontiers. We've not explored that like we need to yet. And what we don't understand, we're fearful of. So, don't be fearful. Fight together.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant.